All right, everybody, we're here tonight at Backyard Smokers BBQ. I'm Myron Mixon, and I'm here to take any questions you might have or want to ask. Ask anything. If I decide not to damn answer it, I just won't answer it.
Somebody said, hey, John,
Well, hey, how y'all? Glad to be there. I'll be here. I'm at my house up here in Gatlinburg, Tennessee for Memorial Day weekend. Not down in Untitled with all the gnats.
how did you get your start?
I got my started out with my dad at his takeout barbecue business. I was 9 years old, and I really wasn't being trained to be a pit master. I was just free labor for my dad, me and my brother Tracy both. And as time went on, begrudgingly, I guess, I learned how to do some cooking and figured out some things, and it all started with my dad teaching me. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. What I like to drink, besides Cabo tequila, is I like to drink one of the top Canadian whiskeys out there. That's all I'll say. But always remember this, every king can always use another crown. Peachwood is still my favorite wood. I mean, I've been using it for a long time, but I can tell you what, flavor profiles, especially in competition, has changed a lot, and now I'm mixing that peachwood in with red oak and with hickory. Hey, John. Best method for tri-tip is going to be hot and fast. You want to take it to an internal temp, somewhere around about 135 degrees, no more. Slice it really thin because you're really cooking it like a steak, so you don't want that to get overcooked. You're not going to ever cook it to doneness and tenderness falling apart. That's not what you're after anyway. You want it to be a very thin cut, so slice it really easy.
Beef ribs.
Beef ribs. Beef ribs, the biggest mistake everybody makes on those is not getting them tender. I like to put smoke on them for about 2 hours. Then I like to pan them. I like to use pans instead of wrapping. I put them on racks in the pans where it picks it up above any juice or anything I might put in the pan. I like to put a little apple juice under it, cover it tight, finish them out for about another 2 hours. You'll have them falling off the bone. But you got to have beef ribs falling off the bone. For me also, if I'm using sauce, it's going to be a vinegar-based sauce, not a sweet sauce. I really don't think beef, in my opinion, whether it's brisket, steaks, and especially beef ribs, need anything sweet.
Justin asked about best method for brisket.
So this is his first one.
Best method for brisket. If you fix and do your first brisket, and who was that?
Justin.
Justin? What I would do, I like to cook it hot and fast. Let's just say, I don't know what size your brisket is, but for me, anything from a 13 to a 20-pound brisket, that's with the point and the flat, I like to cook it at 300 degrees out in the smoke. Then I come in after 2 hours, I'll pan it, and I'll cook it at 300 degrees until the internal temperature at the point up there, what looks like a point, which is the decal, gets to 205 degrees. Leave it in the pan, covered. Take your old moving blanket, old sleeping bag, slide it in it, let it rest for 2 hours. 4 hours is better. Then bring it out. You get tender slices. It's going to be really moist. How long do you rest a hog before serving? From Nick Allen. Nick, for me, when I'm doing competition for whole hogs, I like to let them rest at least 2 hours. 4 hours is a lot better, just like we just talked about with the brisket. But at least 2 hours to let that juice start sucking back into the hog. When you're rendering, which is cooking, you're pushing out juice, you're pushing out blood, gristle fat. When you let it rest, in other words, you drop that temperature down, you're letting all those flavors start sucking back into the meat itself. So 2 to 4 hours, you'll be jam on.
Baby back ribs for Adam.
Baby back ribs for Adam. How to cook them?
Any tips?
For me, on baby back ribs, the key to them is not cooking them too hot. And I'm the big guy right here that loves hot and fast, but I still like, for me, 250 degrees to 275, which is low for me, is where I like to be on baby backs. But also, baby backs to me needs a little sweetness to them because everybody expects ribs to be a little sweet. And a spritz that I like to use is made up of apple juice, white sugar, imitation butter. So that'll be the spritz that I will use every 30 minutes after I let that rub set for the first hour. All right, do I marinate my ribs? Yes, I do sometimes. I used to do it all the time in competition. Every now and then I still go back to that original recipes in my first cookbook, Smoking with Myron Mixon.
Okay. And Russell wants to know, are you going to be in D.C.?
I will be in D.C. at the Giant Barbecue Battle. Matter of fact, I'll get up there on Tuesday. We got a restaurant there now over in Old Town Alexandria. Myron Mixon Pitmaster Barbecue. I'll be doing some things over there. We're doing a whole hog night on Wednesday. But yes, I'll be back in D.C. Great contest.
Somebody wants to know, will you be at Barbecue Fest in Connecticut? You will not.
I will be at the Mohegan Sun next weekend. For the, I will not be competing, but I'll be there doing an appearance. One of my partners for competition stuff is Mohegan Casino. So I'll be there.
All right, John wants to know, do you prefer spares or baby backs?
For me, personally, when I'm cooking, I like spare ribs. It's got a lot more fat content. Fat content relates to moisture. It relates to flavor. Baby backs are great, not knocking them any, but if you really want the most flavor, and the thing is, they're cheaper. But the spares for me is the most flavor you can get on a rib.
Jason says, for my comp ribs, I use a UDS and my ribs are falling apart. I can't get them right. Any tips? I don't know what a UDS is.
For Jason, for your comp ribs, if your ribs are falling apart, you leave them too long in the wrapper in the pan at the end. I'm feel sure that at some point or another you're wrapping these ribs, and you got to back that up some. If you're wrapping for 2 hours, try wrapping them at an hour and a half, or maybe even an hour. For me, using my water cookers, the H2Os, the Myron Mixon Smokers, it doesn't take me but 3 hours, really like 2 hours and 45 minutes to cook ribs. We don't even leave them pan but about 30 to 45 minutes because there's so much moisture already in the cook chamber. But with that being said, with all the great breeds of hogs out there right now, it's got a lot of marbling, a lot of moisture already in the meat. You're not having to do the cook times that we once did. The 4 hour rib to me, I think, is done with. I think we're more in the 2.5 to 3 hour range now on ribs.
Do you scrape your chicken skin?
Do I scrape my chicken skin? No, I make Michael do that. I hate scraping chicken skin. Matter of fact, when I do thighs, we do scrape it. And we do take the meat tenderizer and prickle the skin to be bite through. That is one of the reasons that we do chicken legs a lot of times, because all we got to do on that is remove that tendon out of there, then we go in and we meat tenderize the skin. There's no scraping required with a chicken leg. But yes, when I do thighs, I scrape it.
Daryl wants to know, do you ever make sausage?
Yes, I do, Daryl. I make sausage. My Uncle Charles has got a great recipe for him. Helped him make them before. He's got his own little low and slow, I guess you want to call, coal smoking unit there to do the sausage. Turns out some good ones. Big South Georgia thing, there's a lot of sage in there. So yeah, I love some sausage.
Anywhere in South Carolina sell your smokers?
Anywhere in South Carolina that sells my smokers. I do not know if we got a rep or not in South Carolina. You can contact our plant in Connecticut, and they can point you in the right direction. My son David, he works heavy with the smoker division. He's also our outside sales guy. So if you would, you could email me, and I'll give you David's contact. He's right here in Unadilla, Georgia, where we live at, and he'd be glad to help you out.
Jackson'sOut@yahoo.com. They want to email us. Any tips for lamb for Ethan?
Ethan, on lamb. One cool thing about lamb is it's getting to be a popular dish. It's something I used to wouldn't eat. My wife used to wasn't eat it, but we love lamb chops now. But I can also tell you, even on the joint meat, like the shoulder or even the shank part of the lamb, you got to, in terms of doing like beef or pork, you got to undercook it. It's got to be more where you can slice it, for me. That's really what lamb was intended to be cooked at. You don't want to go in there and cook it where it's falling all to pieces and you really cook all the flavor that's in lamb out. But, yeah, I mean, the thing about lamb, chops are the most favorite thing I know to cook. I use my same pork injection when I'm cooking lamb, but for me, the internals, you're going to be somewhere around 170 degrees instead of where you're looking at on pork, like 195.
What charcoal do you use with your wood? Do you use lump or commercial briquettes?
The wood, the only time that I ever use charcoal, unless I'm using one of our gravity feed smokers, is when we're starting the fires. And I use just regular charcoal briquettes when we're starting the fires up. And from that point forward, after the fire gets going, then we come in and we're just using our wood. But if I was using our gravity feeds, our Vulcans, for me, I still would use the charcoal briquettes. They're a lot smoother going down in our chutes. Also, for us, the charcoal briquettes now are coming out with a lot of great flavors. You got the hickory chips embedded in the briquettes. You got applewood in there. Even got ones coming out now. It's got the peach wood in it. So you got a lot of options there with the briquettes that you really don't have with the lump.
If you're grilling steaks, what's your favorite cut for Don?
Don, my favorite steak by far is the ribeye. Now, I was raised with my dad. My dad loved T-bones, and he wouldn't eat nothing but a T-bone. But for me, I like that fattiness that's inside and the marbleness inside of a great ribeye. Favorite cut.
What temp do you like steak?
I like to have my steak medium rare. That's going to be somewhere around the 130, 140 range. I could eat it rare, especially after a few cocktails. But for me, I like that medium rare steak.
Do you debone your chicken thighs?
When I'm doing chicken thighs, the only time I debone them is when I'm doing my cupcake chicken. I will take the bone all the way out for the cupcake chicken. But when I'm doing with skin on thighs, the bone stays in.
Well, Mitch, when cooking brisket, do you cook it fat side up or down?
Mitch, I always cook fat cavity or the fat side down all the time on brisket. I do that on pork butts also. For me, my heat on my smokers comes from the bottom, and that fat cap helps protect what I care about, which is going to be on the top, where I get my slices from. I'm not one of those that believes in fairy tales. I don't believe in the Easter Bunny and flipping them upside down. Let me go ahead and tell you, 2 inches of fat cap on a brisket ain't going to soak through the middle of that brisket. I don't care who says that. It ain't happening.
Do you use foil or butcher paper for wrapping?
Do I do what now?
Foil or butcher paper?
I use foil for me in competitions when I'm wrapping up briskets or butts. In our restaurant in Alexandria and also the one in our restaurant in Chicago, we wrap in butcher paper. One thing is it basically does the same job, a lot cheaper, and it also lets it still absorb some smoke while it's sitting there holding. Something you really need for restaurant barbecue.
For Nate, how do you cook hot and fast and still get tenderness?
Nate, for me, cooking hot and fast and still keeping the tender has always been easy because I've always used water cookers. Water cookers, and I'm not sitting here plugging smokers. I'm not the only builder of water cookers. But water cookers are water pan systems like we cook on. They keep moisture inside the cook chamber the whole period of time. I mean, you got moisture all the way through. Well, when a piece of meat starts rendering out and getting to a state of doneness, it's throwing out moisture. But if you got moisture already in the cook chamber, it retains X amount of that more than it would in a dry heat cooker. So you wind up with moist meat the whole period of time. But for me on beef, when I first decided I was going to cook hot and fast on a brisket, I thought about a brisket. I said, well, how do you cook a steak? Well, you sear it off hot and fast because you want to keep what inside of it, the juices. So that's why I went in there at 300, 350 degrees, hot and fast on that brisket, and basically like seared off the juices inside that brisket. That was my first experience doing brisket hot and fast.
What's the craziest thing you've ever smoked from Nick?
The craziest thing I've ever smoked from Nick probably was one time, again, in my younger days, when we done got too heavy into I think my daddy's homemade muscadine wine, was we took a raccoon somebody had shot and we barbecued it. And don't ask me what it tastes like. I couldn't told you then because I don't even really remember it getting done.
Adam, what temp do you cook your chicken at for comps?
Adam, for me, cooking chicken at comps, I like to go in about 185 degrees. And I only cook dark meat for comps, whether it's thighs or whether it's legs. And I know chicken is done, dark meat is at 180, but I like to take it over a little bit. Plus, we're going to be cooking in butter when we're cooking this chicken, whether it's either in our cupcake molds or I'm cooking the pieces out individual like the legs or the regular thighs. And taking it over to 185, they're still going to be moist and they're going to have a real clean bite.
For Philip, what are the advantages of your water pan technology?
Philip, the advantages of the water pan technology, I just mentioned that in a prior question, is you're cooking with moisture, you're cooking with steam. And in our water cookers, the pans there got the water steaming, boiling away because wood gets put in under the pan in the firebox. But you got vents on either side of the pan that allows the smoke to come up from the wood. So you're doing two things at one time. You're tenderizing the meat while you're barbecuing, but you're also adding smoke. So you can't get no better than that. Tender barbecue, give me a break. You got to have that every time.
Other than barbecue, what's your favorite meal from Colby?
Other than barbecue, what's my favorite meal? Anybody that knows me, that's fried chicken. Anytime I'm in a big city or small town when I'm doing all my traveling, I try to find where the locals go eat fried chicken. I mean, I love it.
What was your first smoker?
My first smoker I ever had was a 55-gallon barrel that a good friend of my daddy had built and gave to him to cook him a ham on for Christmas. He didn't want to cook it on my daddy's pit. He wanted to cook it on his. So he brought a 55-gallon barrel over there for Daddy to cook his ham on, but Daddy just gave me the smoke and still cooked his ham on his masonry pits.
What's the secret to having a clean bite on chicken skin from Chris?
Secret to having a clean bite on chicken skin. One thing is, you got to try to cook as much fat out from under that skin as you possibly can. But in competition, if you're going to get in there and really make it bite through, you got to get that skin almost transparent. You got to scrape that skin out. Then I take a meat tenderizer, which got like 42 little needles that you prick it, where you wrap the skin back around the chicken, you cook it, then it makes a bite through where, it's no resistance. But that's a lot of work to do more than, I do 16 for contest. I couldn't imagine trying to feed people at a restaurant scrape chicken skin. I wouldn't do it. They just have to have eat a chicken leg or do something different because I ain't doing it.
Natalie wants to know what's in your cup you're drinking.
Natalie, what I got in my cup right now, because my wife's sitting out here with me, is just Black Maxwell House coffee. She wouldn't let me have what I wanted to have because she's scared I wouldn't get through with this interview.
Wes wants to know, do you have a go-to ancillary contest entry?
My go-to ancillary contest entry, back in the day when I was doing 40 to 50 contests a year, and I have done 50. I know there's only 52 weeks, but I have cooked 50 weekends out of a year. They always used to have ancillary contests on Friday, and they used to pay big money. You don't see much big money in ancillaries now as you used to. It used to be like $500 to win a lot of them. And my go-to was catfish shrimp Alfredo over wild rice and orzo. That was my go-to deal. It's an awesome recipe.
To the Royal.
Yes, I will be at the Royal.
And he wants to know, do you inject brisket?
I do inject brisket. That recipe is also in my first book, Smoking with Myron Mixon. I do some little tweaking now that we do a little bit different now in my cook classes that I teach. But it's basically like the recipe in the book.
Right, somebody wants to know, did you ever spank Michael's ass when he was a child because he seems like a handful?
Did I ever damn beat Michael's ass as a child? Yes, I did whenever I could get my hands on him. Michael has been a handful, as I think somebody's done said, since he's been growing up. And he's getting a little bit better now. He listens to his dad, and plus now, they can't get me for child abuse. I just knock his ass out if I need to.
Brian wants to know, do you ever do classes in Florida?
Brian, I do all of my classes at my compound in Unadilla, Georgia. I don't take it on the road. When I first got started back in 2005 teaching, We did take it on the road. I used to do some down in Florida at the Swanee State Park down there where the Swanee River goes through. But it just makes it easier for me to do it at my compound. The facility was built strictly for classes. We set up there to be able to do them all. It makes it easy on the students. Right there in my pecan orchard, I got some 100-year-old trees in there. It's a great location for it. Now, the only class that I do teach that's not there is at our smoker plant in Waterford, Connecticut, and we'll be doing that class in July.
Who's your favorite pit master in the world?
My favorite pit master in the world would be Pat Burke of Tower Rock Barbecue from Murfreesboro, Illinois. Back when I got started in 1996, cooking strictly Memphis and May events, Pat Burke was the man. He is probably better known as being Mike Mills of Apple City Barbecue's teammate. He was just as important in that team as Mike Mills was. And let me tell you something, Pat Burke was the guy. I used to drive past contests in Georgia to get the contest that Pat was cooking in Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, because in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And he's awesome.
Taylor wants to know how long have you been doing barbecue?
Taylor, I've been doing barbecue. Well, I guess I've been around barbecue, like I said a while ago, since the age of 9. My dad got me involved in helping him with his carry-out barbecue business, but I'm not saying it was helping. He used me and my brother like grunt work, just go fetch boys. So that's when I actually started, but where I started paying attention was probably in my early 20s, paying more attention and really learning the craft, and it is a craft. Watching what my dad did with meats, how he told when meat was done. My dad barbecued all his life and never owned a meat thermometer or had a gauge on his masonry pits. He cooked by feel, smell, eyesight, and probably the other than Pat Burke, him and my dad were the probably two most influential people in my life as far as barbecuing.
James wants to know, do you ever teach whole hog?
James, I teach whole hog at every one of my cook schools. We do one a month. And matter of fact, I got one coming up here 2 weeks. It'll be our June class. It'll be the last one for the summer, other than the July class we're doing in Connecticut, which we don't teach hog in Connecticut. And I'll come back in September and start my regular classes, but I do hog in every class.
Brad says your hog sauce rules.
Brad, I'm glad you're enjoying our hog sauce. We came out with it last year. I worked on that recipe for 6 months, and we're fixing to put it on the website. Right now, it's not even on the website yet. The only way you can get it, or even people that's tried it, has come to my cook schools. And I've been reluctant kind of to do it, to put it out there and put it for sale, but it's a cool sauce. It's got a unique flavor profile to it. Use a little bit of vanilla in it.
How many trophies have you won since you started competing for Philip?
Philip, I probably have won trophy-wise. It's counting all of them, which you don't always take first place. You got 5th places and 9th places and 10th places. I probably have won probably anywhere from 1,700 to 2,000 trophies total going to contest. And that's everything, from anything butts and all that kind of stuff. And also, we've won over 220-something grand championships, but a lot of trophies. I've, over the years, started culling some out. A lot of them get damaged and messed up, but the great ones are the ones I feel got sentimental value to them or different. I've got those in my trophy room in my house that my wife wants me to clean out. You notice how wise I always want you to get rid of all the stuff that means something to you, but you go in their closet and want to throw some damn shoes away, then you catch hell.
Brian wants to know, are you a dry rub man or a big sauce man?
Brian, I'm both, as far as whether I'm a dry rub man or a big sauce guy. For me, I mentioned the spritz recipe a while ago that we use with apple juice, white sugar, and imitation butter. When I get through putting that spritz on just the dry rub ribs, that's all I need. And it's like water when it goes on there, so it's not like a sauce. But for me, good sauces like the hog sauce we talked about a while ago, applied very thinly, is awesome too. But at our restaurants, they come out dry, with only our spritz on them, and we let you add the sauces to them. For me at home, all I need is just that dry rib, my vinegar sauce sitting on the table, and I'm good.
Anthony, you need to just tell him, he wants to know, do you ever come to California for classes? And you say, thank you.
Anthony, I appreciate you asking about do I come for classes out there to do class in California. I try to do them there in my home. It makes it a lot easier for me. When it's easier for me and my guys, the black shirts, to put on a class, it makes a better class for everybody that participates. I'd love to have you come to Georgia with me. We got some classes coming up in the fall. But no, I don't travel much doing classes.
Bob wants to know, do you trim the fat cap on brisket or leave it?
Bob, I trim the fat cap on brisket, but I trim it down to about like 3/8 of an inch down on the part that I leave over the flat. Now I trim all the fat cap off where the point's at because I'm going to make my burnt ends out of that.
Wes wants to know if you have a bucket list for your barbecue contest or your barbecue roll.
My bucket list for barbecue for me. It will not be going to barbecue restaurants. I can tell you that. I don't go to barbecue restaurants. I've been around barbecue all of my life. The only restaurants I go to are mine. It's nothing against anybody that's got great barbecue restaurants, and there's a lot of great ones out there. I just don't do that. As far as a bucket list of barbecue, I would like to get out and do some contests in California. I would love to go and do the Frisco contest in Colorado. I like to go and do a contest in Alaska just to say I've done it. I like to do some in Canada. I've never got to do that yet. But my problem in being able to get there and go is time. And my wife says I like to win the Royal and the Jack Daniels because that's two I've never won.
Natalie wants to know which trophy means the most to you.
The trophy that means the most to me would probably be the first big pig jig trophy that's in my original hometown of Vienna, Georgia. They got 140 plus teams there. I won it the year after my dad passed away in 1996. I won the contest in 1997. And I've won a lot of great accolades, and it's taken nothing away from those other contests, including the World Championship 4 times. But winning that trophy after my dad passed, that was in my hometown. That was a big moment.
Right. This Bradley wants to know, do you ever do events in Georgia at your restaurant? We don't have a restaurant in Georgia.
Bradley, I don't have a restaurant in Georgia. The only place I got restaurants is I got one in Chicago next to Wrigley Field, Myron Mixon Smoke Show Barbecue, and I have Myron Mixon Pitmaster Barbecue in Alexandria, Old Town, right outside of D.C.
Right. Tony wants to know, other than yourself, who has made the best piece of barbecue that you have ever eaten, and what was it?
Other than myself, who has made the best piece of barbecue that I've ever eaten, and what was it? Everybody, the easy out for me to be able to say my dad, and that would be true probably. But other than anybody in my family, I will tell you this. Probably one of and I'm going to talk about a restaurant here. There's a restaurant that's been in business since 1927 in Macon, Georgia, called Fincher's Barbecue. And they cook it old school like my dad cooked it, and shoveling the coals under it. And on Tuesdays, you can go up there and get the cracklings that they serve in a bag along with your meal. And my daddy used to take us up there every now and then when we was little, and you get the big pig sandwich, a bag of cracklings, and them little old half-pint chocolate milk from Cherokee Dairy back in the day. And that won't mean nothing to most of y'all, but I was less than 12 years old when he did it. Even though we had a takeout barbecue business, we go up there, still in business, and if nothing else, for sentimental reasons, that's probably the best piece of barbecue other than somebody in my family's ever cooked.
What size whole hog do you like to cook, and do you lay it on its back or its belly?
When I'm cooking whole hog, I always lay it on the back, and that's the way I cook it the whole period of time, never flipping it. Only time I flip hogs is when we're doing the old school on my masonry pits. I teach that class once a year where you got to flip it because you're cooking with direct heat. But when I'm cooking my regular hog, it's always on the back. I can use the skin like a bowl to hold all the natural flavor that's rendering out stays inside that cavity. I don't lose any of that. If you flipped him on his stomach, and if you've injected and done all that stuff to him, when he starts rendering, guess what? It's going to push it all out. So I'm not telling you this is the best looking hog, but it'll be the best tasting hog there is.
Go to rub for tri-tip from Bob.
Do what now?
Go to rub for a tri-tip. His name is Bob.
Go to rub for tri-tip. For me, because I don't like anything sweet, it would be for me if my original rub. If you wanted to buy a rub, but if I was going to do something quick at home, I take equal parts of salt, chili powder, black pepper, a little cayenne, maybe a little garlic, and I'd whisk it together and go on the outside. But the first thing I would do before I applied that rub, take me a little cooking oil, put it all the way around it, then pat my rub in. A couple things that's going to do, the cooking oil is going to help that rub adhere, but it's also going to help it start charring up and give you a good crust on it, because you're going to be cooking that damn tri-tip hot and fast.
All right, James wants to know, how many comps did you cook before you won your first grand?
James, I cooked. My first contest I ever went to was in June of 1996. My dad passed away in January of 1996, and I took 2 first place and a 3rd place at that contest. And my 3rd contest I went to, I granded.
Why have you not put a restaurant in your hometown? Never done that.
Question: why haven't I put a restaurant in my hometown? Who asked that question?
Don.
Don? Don, because I don't want to be a broke ass. Did that back in 2001. Opened one up right before I won my first world championship in Memphis. It didn't lose money, but it didn't make no money because the hometown wasn't but 1,500 people, ain't but 10,000 people in my old county. And if everybody ate with you once, you still ain't gonna make enough money to make it happen. But it was fun doing it. Had a lot of great memories there. But to be able to make money in the restaurant business, you got to be where there's warm bodies. In other words, a lot of people somewhere like D.C., like Chicago, and you got to have it somewhere that's still unique. Barbecue ain't unique south of the Mason-Dixon line. You got to be able to charge for it to be able to make money. And I know a lot of times people give me, I say a bad rap. They say, oh, I've been sold out because I want to make money. Hell, I think everybody wants to make money. And but you got to put restaurants where you can make some money out of them. You don't want to sit there and just swap money.
Mike wants to know what's the best way to get through the stall when you're doing pork butts?
Mike, whenever you got a stall going on pork butts, there ain't but one way to get through it. You got to jack that heat up. And that's somewhere between 300 and 350 degrees. And most of the time this happens somewhere around 168, 172 degrees internal temp. And why it happens, I don't know. There's been a lot of discussion about why it happens, but I can tell you how to get through it. You jack that heat up there around 300 to 350 degrees, it'll push it right on through it, get that butt done, and move on to something else.
Somebody wants to know you're going to be on TV anytime soon.
We got, I'm doing the barbecue show that me and Michael, my son Michael does, Barbecue Rules. We start filming here very shortly. And I'll be on Fox and Friends Monday morning for Memorial Day. We're doing something with them. And we're working on some concepts right now for Food Network, pitching them out there. Michael also, he's had his first pilot where he was hosting on his food truck deal. I think he done pretty good with that. So, yeah, I'm judging on Chop coming up here shortly. June the 15th, I just was on the Steve Harvey show, and it'll air June the 15th. I always love going on there with Steve Harvey because he's crazy as hell like me.
Wrap ribs or don't?
I do wrap ribs. I like to wrap ribs. Reason for that, after I get the color set like I want it, I cook more by color than I do by actual getting worried about smoke flavor getting in there. But when the color gets set and I get a good mahogany color on my ribs, I like to wrap them. Protect that color. You want it to look as good as it tastes.
Any tips for this guy who's supposed to do his first rib competition in North Carolina, Josh? Josh,
your first rib competition is coming up. I'm going to tell you how I cook mine. I'm cooking to 275 degrees on my ribs, whether it's baby backs or spares. You got your rub on there. That first hour, I don't do anything to them but let that rub set. I'm not doing any spritzing, anything like that. If you spritz right off the bat, guess what? You're going to rinse off your rubs. I let that rub set after the first hour. I come in there with my spritz. Every 15 minutes on that second hour, I spritz. After 2 hours out, then I come in there and put them in the pan, let them tender up. That generally takes me about anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. Whatever how long it takes you, that's what you got to do. Then once I get them to tenderness, I bring them out. I glaze the sauce I like. I always heat my sauces up first. Never put cold sauce on hot meat. Plus it thins it out. Then you paintbrush it on, let the sauce set for 8 minutes. If you overset that sauce is going to stick behind your teeth, and you don't want that.
Bill wants to know what is a good rub for chicken.
Bill, what is a good rub for chicken? That would be Myron Mixon's Honey Money Cluck Rub. That will be that. It's got honey powder in it. I feel like chicken can use a little sweetness, a little different sweetness than just sugars. But that's my go-to rub when I'm doing any of my chickens or my turkeys. And you can get all that at jacksoulsouth.com.
Josh wants to know if you ever tried using sand instead of water in the water pan?
Josh, these water cookers are made for water. That's why they're called H2O systems. A good friend of mine, Ray Lampke, used one of my units when we were doing some of the early TV up in New York City. He didn't want to fool with the water, and he went in and stuck sand down in my water pans. And I don't know what part of the water cooker Cool Ray didn't know, but he wanted to be unique and try something new like he always does and raise a great barbecue, but he messed that one up a little bit. Once that sand gets hot, it's like masonry. You can't control the heat then. You know, the water pan, you can control it because you can add more water, cool it down, whatever you need to do. But once that sand gets hot, you can't go in there and damper that sand down. It's going to keep rising in temp once it gets hot. So don't put sand in a water pan. You can put fruit juice, you can put broth in a pan, you can put water in a pan. Do not put sand in your water pan.
Right. Brian says, if I go to your restaurant, what would you recommend ordering?
Brian, if you went to either one of my restaurants, I would recommend for sure appetizers, the burnt ends. We do great burnt ends there. Also, I would recommend the ribs are good. Our brisket's good. All of it is really good. Cupcake chicken in Chicago is awesome. We do cupcake chicken just on specials in D.C., but the burnt ends, they're off the chain.
Baby back mac.
And the baby back mac and cheese. I love baby back mac and cheese. I can eat like a damn popsicle when it gets cold out of the fridge.
Let's see. What do you think about these folks that use gas grills?
Gas grills, you know, I'm a big believer in charcoal or wood or even wood pellets. But you cook what you got with. And the thing is, gas grills, 10 years ago, I'd have been all down on them. But I understand now that people have to do what they got to do. And most gas grills now have more than one bank. In other words, they got more than one burner. You can light both burners on either side, leave the bank in the middle or the burner in the middle down, off, and you can do some smoking there. And you got a lot of things out there that can help you impair smoke on meat, even when you just got gas. You got, like I've got a hickory salt that I sell that you can substitute for regular salt in your seasonings. It's actually smoked with hickory, and it'll give you that good flavor. Plus, you can go in and do the aluminum foil, wet chips, prick the holes with a fork, put them on your burners on your gas grill, smolders, and put smoke in it as you're cooking. You know, anytime you're out trying and you're out there trying to smoke with flames and fire, that's a good time. It don't matter if you got a $20,000 pit or you got a $200 gas grill. You're out there doing what everybody loves to do, and that's barbecue.
All right. When is your next class?
My next class will be in 2 weeks, in June. And after that, we got our September classes up on the website now.
Call me. What made
I'm sweating like a damn goat.
What made you get into pellets and pellet grills from Tim?
Tim, the reason we got into pellet cookers was everybody was looking for the easiest way to smoke. And our first venture into it was we had to figure out first and foremost, because a lot of pellet cookers, they do not put out enough smoke on the meat. We had to figure this problem out at Myron Mixon Smokers. And at our plant, which you can take a tour of, it's right across the street from my showroom. You can see we got about 6 engineers on staff, and we worked on this for about a little over a year before we found out how to actually make these pellet cookers put out smoke just like you would do with a stick burner. And we figured out the problem, upgraded our equipment above and beyond, I think, what anybody else has got. We built our first commercial units that work awesome. And we got several restaurants now that are using them, where you basically can set them and forget them. And they got keypads. You can work them from your app on your phone, Wi-Fi. I mean, they're awesome. And but going back to it, if we hadn't been able to figure out how to put that smoke to it, it'd have been just like everybody else's. But we're now coming out with recreational units, the ones I call like for the backyard or for competitions, and we hope to have them out the latter part of the summer.
David says hi from Tennessee, and he loves the show.
Hey, David. Appreciate you watching the shows, big man. Keep it out. We're going to be doing barbecue rules, and if we can get Food Network to swing our way on something, we'll be doing something else the latter part of the summer. And I'm in Tennessee, too, in Gatlinburg.
Brad wants to know what's your favorite barbecue sanction.
Brad, my favorite barbecue sanction, and I got a lot of them. I cook it all. KCBS has then got to be my go-to sanctioning body because it's easy to do, and I can take a few of my guys and go do them. Florida Barbecue Association, I cook those too. Georgia Barbecue Association. But my start came in Memphis in May, and that's the only place you get to cook a whole hog now, and that's probably my love is being able to do that hog. It'd have to be the Memphis in May events.
What's the name of your website for class information?
For class information, you go to jacksosouth.com and check it out.
Click on the class link at the top.
And just hit on the class link at the top. If you want to send me an email, send it to jacksosouth@yahoo.com.
Dry wood or moist wood when you're smoking?
The question was dry wood or moist wood from Scott. Scott, when I'm cooking with hickory oak pecan, and it is pecan, it ain't pecan. Anybody tell me anywhere in that word pecan is C-O-N, I'll kiss your ass and give you 3 days to draw a crowd. But those hardwoods like that, you got to let them dry out. You got to let them season. And they got to be seasoned in a spot where they can stay dry and that moisture stay away from them, up off the ground. Now, if you're using fruit woods like peach and pear, plum, all of those, best use is when they're green. And when I'm cooking peach wood, if I can get it right out of the orchard, that's where you get the most flavor from it, because your fruit woods has got high sugar saps. And the greener the better on those. I mean, really and truly. It takes a little harder to get that fire roaring, but once you get it rolling, you got some great coals, and you can just smell the sap coming out of it.
What's your advice for someone wanting to start a barbecue restaurant from Chris?
Chris, for somebody wanting to start a barbecue restaurant, I mentioned a while ago about first thing you got to have, my friend, you got to have a place where there's a lot of people. You got to have a place also where people eat out a lot. They got good jobs. They don't mind spending for what they get. That's one thing I always see with people in the barbecue business, especially down in the South. They undercut themselves on price, and I understand why, because everybody in the South especially has got grills and smokers. They're not going to pay but X amount of dollars, and I do understand it. But you think about it, barbecuing is a hard work. It ain't just going there like flipping burgers for 3 minutes and serving it on a bun and selling it. There's a lot of process goes into it. You got 20 plus hours tied up cooking the meat and getting stuff together and actually barbecuing. But if I was going to put a restaurant in, pick you out a nice sized city, get a great location, and have a bunch of damn money.
Carol Phelps wants to know, what's the biggest barbecue secret of all that you have learned?
The biggest barbecue secret of all that I've ever learned, and that's from Carol Phelps, good friend of mine, down in Douglas, Georgia, with Barbecue News. The biggest secret is the hardest thing for me to learn was, and I learned this early on, it ain't been recent either. I wasn't going to ever win all the damn contests, bad as I wanted to. and there's always going to be somebody else's turn every now and then. But when you win, you got to be a great winner, but you also got to be a better loser. And that's something y'all talking about my son Michael a while ago. I got to get his ass more in line on that, where he figures that out. But that comes with age. Hell, he ain't but 26 years old, and when I was 26, you couldn't tell me nothing either.
Wes Phillips wants to know, what do you think about adding onions and apples and other food to your coals?
Wes, I have seen a lot of people add different things in their coals out there, putting onions in them, fruits and stuff like that. And I could see that benefiting maybe, especially on like ribs and chicken, some thin meats. But meats that are injected like briskets and butts, I don't see that really going to help you, especially I don't see that smoke overpowering all the injections and stuff you already have inside the meat. For me, if I wanted to do anything, and I'm speaking strictly to water pan cooking like I use, I do know this. Putting fruit juices down in the pan, and even putting garlics and stuff like that in the pan instead of down in the firebox, where it opens up the cells of all those veggies, does more to permeate the skin and the meats than actually the smoke does. So that's my take on that.
Brad says Smoke was a good show. Did you like the format?
That he won the rib episode.
Smoked was a great concept. Brad, I think you won the rib episode on there, so I know damn well you like that show. But yeah, I really liked it. I think we got it right on last year's season, and hoping we're going to be able to get it picked back up. They're still working on that. Maybe a different network or something, but something like that show may get picked up by some of the other networks. But I think after all the seasons, we almost did 9 seasons. And if you count them all up, we probably did 9 seasons of Barbecue Pitmasters, counting the smoked. And for me, smoked was the best of all of it. We kind of got it right.
Wes says, are you interested in adopting a 31-year-old? He's old enough to listen. You can tell him you already have one that turned 32 today. You're not interested.
Well, Wes, I just got told you was looking for somebody to adopt you at the age of 31 because you'd listen. Well, I got a 32-year-old. She just turned 32 today, and she says, hell no, there ain't enough money to go around now.
John wants to know if you could give one tip to a new barbecue person, what would that be?
John, giving a tip, if I could just give one tip to a newbie in barbecue. I can't give you just one, but I can tell you some things, and then make it quick. First thing is, whatever type smoker you got, you jump out there, you learn that smoker, you run it in and out, you learn how it operates, in good weather, bad weather, wind, rain, whatever it'll do, you learn how to operate that smoker. Just don't go out there every now and then and expect to be great at it. You got to learn it. Second thing is, pay attention to the recipes. And also, there's a lot of knowledge out there. There's a lot of knowledge out there. Whether you go to a cook school or not, on the internet, there's some great things out there, and also some great cookbooks. Now, like anything else, you got to wade through them, and you got to pick out the good from the bad, because there's some bad stuff too. But pay attention to all those things. And I know you expected me to give you this do-all sauce or do-all rub, but first thing you got to do is become a good pitmaster. And that comes from being able to manage your pit, and that comes from you having the basic skills to be able to be a good pitmaster.
Greg wants to know, how do you keep your chicken from drying out?
Greg, want to know how I keep my chicken from drying out. First thing is, I like to do a brine on everything I cook for as poultry. And the salt is going to draw not only flavor down in and around the bone, but it draws moisture down in and around the bone. And anytime I cook chicken, I always brine it. But the easiest thing to do to keep it from drying out is don't overcook it. Always remember you're going to have some carryover. And if you got dark meat, always pull it somewhere around 180. Carries up to 185, you're great. Same thing with white meat. It used to be 165 was what health departments required you to cook internal on breast meat. Now it's 160. I like to stop mine and pull it about 155 and let it carry over. That keeps that moisture in that white meat. But I'm telling you, you need to do brine on all your chicken. Keeps moisture in it. Puts flavor in it too.
Angela wants to know your favorite wood or woods for flavors.
Angelo, my favorite wood by far is peach wood. It's getting harder to find even down in South Georgia where I live, where the peaches are grown in Georgia. My go-to after that, in order, is going to be red oak. My dad loved red oak. Next going to be hickory, and the next will be pecan.
Steve wants to know your favorite fish or seafood to smoke.
Steve, my favorite seafood to smoke, and the process for me smoking seafood is the same thing, or fish out of the sea, same thing if I did freshwater. While I was doing catfish, of course everybody loves flounder, everybody loves snapper, but for me, and I don't know how many of y'all know what it is, but I like mullet. I love to smoke mullet. It's off the chain, a little butter, little onions in the final dish, a little bit of salt and pepper on it. Just scoop it out with a spoon, have some cheese grits over there, some hush puppies. Damn it, man.
Do you prefer gravity-fed smokers over other styles? Have you ever answered that?
Do what now?
Gravity smoke. Do you prefer gravity smokers over others?
The gravity smokers that we come out with and others that come out with, they do a good job now. The ones we're building now are high quality. I enjoy cooking with them. We even got a gravity feed hog cooker, especially if you're a one-man or one-woman operation. It makes it really easy, just like the pellet cookers do. You don't have to man the fires and sit out there and make sure everything's going with it like we do with the stick burners. But, you can get some good products out of that. We talked about the charcoal a while ago now. A lot of it's infused with all the wood chips. So nothing wrong in the world with a gravity feed smoker.
All right. Nick says he just started a barbecue catering service and wants to know if you have any tips.
Barbecue catering service. From Nick, any tips? I can tell you this, Nick, on the catering service is going to be about how well you learn how to hold this meat. How well you go out, and once it's done, there's a lot of restaurants, a lot of catering services, they figure out how to turn out great product, but then you got to hold it. In your case, you got to be able to hold it and be able to serve it later, whether it's an hour later or maybe it's a 4-hour drive to wherever you got to go, and you got to be able to hold that product. Same way with, on the line at a restaurant, it's the holding part of it you got to figure out. And there's a lot of little tips and stuff out there on how to do that. Matter of fact, we discussed some of those in classes because, whether my class, I do cover competition barbecue, but I have gotten to where I cover a lot of things for people that's in the restaurant business or wanting to get in or change their flavor profile for the restaurants. We discuss a lot of those things, and one of the things we discuss is how to hold that product and where it's great when you serve it up eventually. And that's a big thing, and you got to learn how to do that.
James wants to know if there's a warranty on Mms Smokers and any about replacement parts.
James, there is a warranty on Mms Smokers, and it really all determines on whether what kind of damage or anything you've had with it. We are the go-to people. I think we got the best warranty of anybody in the world. As far as smokers go, we have even sent people from our plant in Connecticut to the people that actually have our smokers to finally get a problem worked out on them. And we do have replacement parts for them. In the past, we have shipped them back to our plant where it wound up being something we done, repaired them, and shipped them back. We stand behind our stuff, and everything that we build at Myron Mixon Smokers is made in the US of A by Americans. So, can't get no better than that.
Mike says, do you have any tips for ribs for KCBS because the judges are killing him?
Tips for anybody doing KCBS because the judges are killing you. One thing I've learned, you got to cover all your bases, and I like to take a spare rib. We doing a St. Louis spare. It's like 3.5s, and that means the slabs weigh 3.5 pounds, which is a big meaty rib, thick. What I've learned also is I like them sized the same. I got a bandsaw, I keep in my walk-in cooler. Which if you ain't got a bandsaw, you might be able to take it to your local meat market and get them to cut them down for you. But what I do, I go in and flush them all up, lay them on a cookie sheet pan, pop them in my freezer for a couple of hours, let them freeze to form. Then I run them through the bandsaw and make them all the same length. I like to cut them down to about like a 4.5 to 5 inch rib. where it just gives them one good bite, but they look all uniform in the box. I mean, they look great. And you got to look at your sauces. You got to go after a sauce that's down the middle of the road. That's why I came up with that hog sauce we talked about a while ago. I like things vinegar and spicy, but let me tell you what, most of the people in this country don't like vinegar and spicy. And you don't want to get it like a candy cane either. It's got to have a sweetness. It's got to have that hickory flavor everybody's after. But you also got to get it to a state of doneness and tenderness. Not falling off the bone, but it's got to be tender. Always remember this. Overcooked beats undercooked every time. But you got to cover all those things. Make them all uniform looking, get a good sauce, and make sure you got it to the right doneness.
All right, what's your best smoker for backyard use from Philip? Your best smoker.
My best smoker for backyard use for Philip would be, in my opinion, now we build the V9 gravity feed, which is awesome. We're building some smaller pellet cookers now for the backyard. For me, because that's what I was raised on doing in competition, would be our 36 water cooker, our H2O 36. You can cook, it's 36-inch smoker, you can cook a lot of meat on it. It's not hard to manage. It's built heavy duty like our biggest H2O systems, but they roll around on casters. You can put it anywhere on your deck. And I always remember this, in my opinion, if you ain't cooking on water and wood, your damn barbecue ain't no good.
Where do you buy most of your meat from?
Most of my meat, all my pork comes from Compart, Duroc. I get all my briskets from State River Farms for competitions. My chicken, I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Publix. We got those down south. From Florida all the way up into the Carolinas. I get their Green Wise, which is their free-range type chicken, far as thighs are, legs, even their whole birds sometimes. I'll cut them up myself. But those are the three meat goers I use.
All right, Dennis says, what would you say to someone who is smoking brisket and pork, vacuum sealing it, freezing it, and then thawing it in boiling water in bags?
And transporting it.
And transporting it.
Miles thawed.
He's in
Thawing
Texas.
out.
So he's cooking,
Now,
vacuuming it. His name is Dennis.
Now, Dennis, the vacuum sealing part I've done a lot. I've cooked briskets and butts and let it cool down enough to where I vacuum seal it in its juices in boilable bags, and then I bring it back in a pot of boiling water. And let me tell you what, Hoss, that is as close to being like coming off the smoker you'll ever get pre-cooked barbecue. Now, the part letting it thaw out going down the road, I don't know about all that stuff now. For me, though, it doesn't take long for it to thaw out once you get somewhere you're going. But I don't see any problem thawing it out going down the road. But I wouldn't tell nobody because you got so many folks out there now that's freakish about getting sick from stuff like that. I just keep that to myself if that's what you're doing.
Ever cooked much on a big green egg?
I have, the question was if I ever cooked much on big green egg. I did a class for big green egg back probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago at their old Lawrenceville location, which was their main headquarters. Went up there and taught just on the green egg. I know how to cook on them. Ceramic cookers ain't much I can't cook on like a lot of other people. And did a class for a good friend of mine that worked there at the time. Nothing wrong with green eggs. It's just the volume of meat that you can't put on a green egg. Sometimes I think, which my eyes are generally bigger than my stomach, I could eat every damn thing you cook on a green egg sometimes. But then again, I don't need to be eating that much either.
What temp do you cook brisket?
I cook my cooking temp for brisket is 300 degrees. That's on the water cookers.
Chris says,
Greg wants to know what racks do you put your brisket on? He's never seen that.
yeah, Barbeque says he loves the racks, and Greg asked what kind of racks are they?
Greg, if you go online to my website at jacksonvillesouth.com and click on the store, you'll see the meat racks. And they got handles on them. They fit right down into a full-size hotel pan, throwaway aluminum pans. I always put handles down. In other words, that picks that meat up off the bottom of the pan. Because in some of my recipes, like for ribs and butts, I put a little bit of apple juice in there. And I want the meat above the apple juice, but I don't want it sitting down in it. So I put them handles down, that picks it up. Also, when I pan my briskets, I don't put anything in there because I want to catch that natural au jus. But as we mentioned a while ago, I clean off the bottom of the point for my burnt end, so it's got a bark there. I don't want it to sit down in the juice that's going to render out after we wrap and wash my rub off the bottom of my point. So I put the handles down. That elevates it about an inch off the bottom of the pan, and then I don't lose any of that crust on the bottom, and it doesn't sit down in the apple juice and maybe get a bad flavor.
Eugene says he's having his 54th birthday tomorrow, so tell Eugene happy birthday tomorrow.
Well, Eugene, happy 54th birthday tomorrow, brother. Mine's going to be May 31st. Geminis, we got dual personalities. Maybe bipolar like Psycho.
What this Frisco wants to know, what meat do you like to work on?
My favorite meat to work on is the whole hog, as far as trimming up and stuff like that. But far as playing around and doing stuff different is dealing around with whole chickens. I like to butterfly them. I like to do some different things, and when I'm deboning them without breaking the skin, doing those type things there with poultry is fun. But far as something I do a lot is the whole hog. I like trimming up a whole hog.
Phil, he says he's watching you from Australia. Are your H2O smokers similar to what's achieving using a simple bullet smoker at home with a water pan?
With water in a pan.
With water in a pan.
David?
Yes.
David from Australia, I'm reading your question now about my H2O similar to the bullet with a water pan in it. Yes, it is similar. But all my smokers are insulated from top to bottom. But it's a similar cook time. I tell people all the time it's not my brand, but a good entry-level smoker is the bullet. Bullets won a lot of contests. You just can't get a lot of volume on it. You got to have several of them to be able to go in and do an actual comp. But yes, same concept.
All right, tell him you're going to do 2 more questions, and we've got, because you've been on here an hour, just tell him you're going to take a couple.
All right, guys, I'm going to take a couple more questions. Then I'll be on here for my hour. I hate to break it up, but I got to go have a drink and a big old damn T-bone over here at the damn peddler. In honor of my daddy.
Do you ever
Smoke pork bellies for bacon.
smoke pork bellies for bacon?
Yes, smoking pork bellies for bacon. Yes, I do. Talked about my Uncle Charles a while ago. We're making the sausage and stuff. We do smoke pork bellies to do our own sliced bacon. Matter of fact, I hadn't started it in other classes, but this class we got coming up, we're going to talk about smoked bacon for the first time and doing smoked hams. I'm going to give the recipes for those.
All right, say hi to Larry Sutherland. His wife was asking you to say hi to him.
Hey, Larry Sutherland. How you doing, brother?
What do you think about adding white pepper to a pork rub?
I love white pepper. It is awesome. Matter of fact, white pepper is one of the ingredients in our new hog sauce that we got out, we talked about. White pepper. Black pepper, you taste a lot of it on the front. White pepper is more on the back burn. That's a great go-to pepper. A lot of times, if you look at my comp trailer, I got it up on the shelf. I grind it up into a dust. If I need a little extra pop, I like it better than cayenne.
All right, Frank wants to know, how can you get your smoker information in Miami?
Frank, if you go to MyronMixonSmoker.com, they'll be glad to hook you up. Or you can go to my website, thejacksonsouth.com, and shoot me an email, and I'll have my son David contact you.
Thank you. Y'all thank y'all for tuning
Well,
in.
guys, I'm glad y'all allowed me to come on in and talk to you a little while. Always remember, everything's good in the barbecue hood. See y'all later down the road.